Hello and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to do an overall review, blog, overview of the Canon 100 to 400 Mark II lens. So let's start with the lens. Obviously it extends, and extends a fair amount. It's different to the old Mark I lens, because the old Mark I lens zoomed out by basically pulling it out or pushing it. So this is the Mark II lens. Basically it's 100 to 400 millimeters. Other reviews have said it's closer to 370 or 380 millimeters. The aperture is 4.5 to 5.6. So basically mode 1 is if your hands are quite shaky. So it does vertical and horizontal axis. Then mode 2 is panning, and mode 3 is panning but with a bit more shakiness up and down. And that's the three modes you can see there on the stabilizer. Now it does have 4 stops of stabilization. If you're wondering what that means, basically 4 stops of light in terms of stabilization. So what that means is for every stop of light, which basically means the whole of the aperture gets smaller and smaller and smaller, like so, and basically it's 4 stops of variation on that for getting lower shutter speed. However, please keep in mind that that won't help you with fast moving subjects such as cars and wildlife. Now your minimum focus is 98 centimeters to infinity. In terms of optimization on the actual focusing, you have full and 3 meters to infinity. What that full means is basically from 98 centimeters all the way out to infinity, and obviously 3 meters is 3 meters away from you from that point to infinity, and that is the focusing. Obviously you have full-time manual focusing even when it's in autofocus, and you do have a selection mode there for putting it into manual focus if you wish to, and you can move the focusing ring. Now you do have a tightening ring here to tighten the strength of the actual resistance of moving the actual focusing out. So as I'm pushing out, I've tightened the ring. As you can see, it's quite stiff. Now if you just loosen it up a bit, as you can see, it's quite smooth. That's the advantage of the tightening ring over a switch such as a Sigma 150 to 600 has. The actual sort of range of millimeters you get when putting it on a crop body will be around 640 millimeters. Obviously give or take 30 millimeters, because it's not quite a true 400 millimeter lens. In the field, in terms of my personal opinion of using it, I found that it did sometimes tend to hunt, even at 5.6 in bright sunlight at 200th of a second shutter speed, and it did seem to me to lose focus. This was quite frustrating, because at points and times when it was a blue sky, alright, there was a little difference in contrast, but it would completely lose focus. Basically I was focusing on a large bird in flight, a very slow moving bird, and it basically lost focus completely, well out of focus, and I was extremely frustrated because I'd spent a long time waiting for that shot and I missed it basically. Obviously it can be frustrating. Some people have sort of insinuated that on the actual front element, if I take that lens cap off, if you put a UV filter on, it could interfere with the focusing. So that is a possibility. I haven't tried it without the actual UV filler, because I remember watching a video of someone having a Sony 70 to 400 lens, and he dropped it, and the filter saved the lens basically. So it's up to you, but I would always recommend having a UV filter on there to protect your expensive lens. And that's my experiences with this lens. Obviously I hope this little review has been helpful. It's up to you. You can obviously, in terms of pricing, Amazon are presently selling it for around £1,800, which is quite expensive. However, you can import it, and I've seen the imports going for around £1,200. So what else do we have on here? Well, basically you do have a tripod mount here with quite a smooth rotating cuff basically. The actual mount itself is quite handy because if you unscrew, if I try and unscrew that for you, it does come off, and as you can see, you do have a bit of a mount on there for hand holding it. Obviously that is removable. I would only estimate it probably weighs maybe 20 grams, not very heavy. And then you just reattach it like so, and it does tighten on quite quickly. In terms of sharpness with the lens, I have noticed it to be comparable with the 300 f4 lens with a 1.4 teleconverter on, comparable to the results from that. So I would probably say this is probably equal, or maybe not quite as good as the 400 5.6 prime. However, it's extremely close, so it's an extremely good lens to have. Anyone who's after more reach than the 400mm will probably have to consider the Sigma 150 to 600 lens, but that does have an end aperture of 6.3. So this is my little roundup. If you would like to check out the focusing speed, have a look at my other video I've done. I'll put a link to that in the description, and you can actually see the quickness of focus. For me, the focusing seems quite slow. Unfortunately, it does seem to have slow focusing. That's just my opinion. You know, obviously, anyone out there who has this lens themselves, please let me know in the comments if you've experienced problems with slow focusing, or even losing focus completely. So this is my roundup of the L 100 to 400 Mark II lens. One last thing, it does have a 77mm filter thread if you want to put a polarizer on there. So this lens does come with quite a nice lens hood basically, which does fit on quite nicely, and it does have a little door at the side, if you can see that. Basically it allows you to manipulate any sort of ND or polarizing filters that you've got. So you can move them around without getting your hands in there and possibly touching glass and putting smudges on the lens. So that's the lens hood. Obviously it's quite nice size wise, and it's quite handy. So let me know what you think. I hope this review has been helpful.